Hello there, Tom here from the Run Testers with another Versus video. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Saucony Triumph 19 and comparing it to the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11. Let's take a look. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 costs £135 or $149.99. It weighs in at 255 grams or 9 ounces, and the drop is 8mm. The Saucony Triumph 19 costs £145 or $150. It weighs in at 286 grams or 10.1 ounces, and the drop is 8mm. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 is a shoe designed to offer comfort and versatility from long, slow miles all the way up to faster training and even racing. The Fresh Foam midsole is built to offer a high level of cushioning while still being firm enough to feel responsive. There's also a sock-like booty style mesh upper that hugs the foot with a supportive fit, and an ultra heel shape is built to hold the foot securely in place. The Triumph 19 is the latest in Saucony's long line of cushion shoes, designed for runners who want comfort and a plush ride but still want to be able to take things up a notch for faster training sessions. The midsole is made from Saucony's PowerRun Plus foam, a material that balances softness with a light springy feel, making it a versatile shoe for runners who like a bit of bounce. There's an updated mesh upper built to feel supportive and comfortable while still adding a good level of breathability, and that's partly due to Saucony's form-fit design that aims to lock the foot in place without feeling too restrictive. There's also an updated rubber outsole to improve durability and grip, as well as a range of colourways. The fit for me in the Triumph 19 is true to size. It's quite a generous shoe. There's a little bit of space in the forefoot, and there's a little bit of width in there as well. So it's quite generous. It's not too generous, and you can still get a nice lockdown fit in it. So yeah, overall, fits true to size for me. The fit in the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 is also true to size for me. But what I would say about these shoes is that I think they are a bit narrower than the Triumph 19. But the material in these shoes that sits at the top is like a elasticated sock material. So what I would find when I wear these shoes is that my side of my foot does press out a little bit, but because it's that elasticated material, I don't really notice it. It just sort of there's a little bit of extra give in it that presses out, but I've never had any issues with blisters or rubbings in these shoes. So true to size in the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 for me as well. So the reason I've picked these two shoes is that if you're somebody looking for a cushioned running shoe, these are both going to pop up quite often in lists. But they're quite different in the way that they work, and I would say different in the type of runner that they're going to work best for. I really like both of these shoes, but I do use them for very different things when I'm training. The Triumph 19 is basically a cruiser. And by cruiser, I mean a shoe that you can just do long distance efforts in or run in every day at a base pace, and it just gets you there every day. It feels comfortable, it rolls along nicely, it keeps you chugging along at the pace you want to go at without any sort of issues, or without finishing the run and thinking that your legs hurt. It should make your legs feel fresh at the end of those runs and consistently do that for a long time. It's basically a workhorse that's there to just help you out every time you go running without fuss. And that's really what the Triumph 19 does. It's a lovely cruiser shoe that has a lot of benefits for those runners just trying to clock up lots of miles. The 1080 V11 is quite a popular shoe for those runners that really just want one pair of shoes to cover them for all the sort of running they're doing. And that can be from 3K runs through the park at a slow pace all the way up to race day. And I've seen a lot of people running London Marathon in this shoe because of that versatility, because you can train in it and you can run in it at a race day, and you don't have to spend loads of money on lots of different shoes. The PowerRun Plus foam that sits in the midsole of the Triumph 19 is a really quite an impressive foam. It's got a nice level of softness to it. It's got a nice level of cushioning. It's quite a dense foam, but it's also got only a little bit of bounce in it, which is just something that's really nice if you're the kind of runner that wants a bit of cushioning in their running. And I'm a big cushioned runner fan, and I like to feel a little bit of squish in the shoes as I'm running, but I like it to bounce back as well. And the Triumph 19 does that really well. It's just a very soft, comfortable shoe that just makes you feel like you're in a very plush ride, and it just makes you enjoy it, really. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, it does have a lot of cushioning in it, but it doesn't have that same feel. It's not a particularly soft cushioning. It doesn't feel like it's got a squish in it. It actually feels a bit harder than a lot of the sort of squishy midsole foams that you get. And this Fresh Foam that sits within it also is quite responsive, which is probably why it's so conducive to those people looking for a shoe that will cover them for slower training miles or long distance training miles all the way up to race day. Because when it comes to race day, that slightly harder foam and that responsiveness does have a big impact on how fast you can run. And it means you can pick up the pace a lot more than you'd be able to in something that's a bit squishier like the Triumph 19. The Triumph is a heavier shoe than the New Balance. And although you don't really notice it when you're on the run, it doesn't feel particularly heavy when it's on your feet. If you were to race in this shoe over half marathon or marathon distance, that would probably become more noticeable when you're trying to actually build up to a higher pace. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, it feels like a nice balance. It does have quite a bit of cushioning in it, but that upper is really thin, and overall the shoe does feel quite light, which is probably why this is such a popular all-rounder option for those people looking for a race shoe that they can use for training as well. The 1080 V11 isn't an enjoyable shoe to run in. I don't really get anything from that midsole foam. It doesn't feel bouncy, it doesn't feel soft and cushioned, but I don't really notice it either. It just does the job, whatever I'm doing. So if it's a long training run, it does a fine job at sort of dealing with the distance and getting me to the end in comfort. And when I'm running at pace, again, it's a harder midsole. It feels like I can do the speed that I want to do, but I don't really get anything from it like I would from the Vaporfly or something like that, which feels like it's really propelling you forward. I think this is just a good all-rounder shoe that ticks a lot of boxes, but doesn't really deliver anything exceptional for whatever it is you're doing. The outsole on the Triumph 19, there's a lot of rubber on this shoe. It's a shoe designed for high mileage, and that comes down to not only the comfort and the plushness of the ride, but also the durability that you get from the shoe. So there's a lot of rubber covering the midsole foam there. No signs at all at the moment of wear and tear on those, but I can see from the thickness of that rubber that it's probably a shoe designed for durability. The 1080 V11, there is a lot of rubber on there as well, but there is a lot more exposed rubber. So this section down here, this is all midsole foam, and it is starting to wear a bit here. I've probably done about 80k in these shoes so far, and it's started to wear down quite a bit in this section over here. And in the 1080 V10s, which I wore probably for about 250k, this did wear down quite a lot for me. So maybe some durability issues when it comes to this section of the outsole here, but overall, I still think it's a very durable shoe that will last quite a while with this outsole rubber that sits on the midsole. Overall, I'm a big fan of both of these shoes, but for different reasons. The 1080 V11 and the 1080 V10 that came before it, I've used loads over the past couple of years for all of those runs where I just leave the house and I'm not really sure if I'm going to go fast, if I'm going to do a nice long slow run, but it just means that I can wear it without worrying that I'm limited to the type of shoe that I've put on when I've left the house. I've also used it for a few races in the past, and it does a fine job at those races. It's never going to compete with something like Vaporfly race shoe or a really lightweight race shoe, but it does the job. And if you're only looking for one pair of shoes to own and you want something to do your training runs and you want something to use on race day, I think the Fresh Foam 1080 V11 and the V10 are a good option for that, and it will just tick a load of those boxes and you'll be happy with it. You're never going to be as amazed with it as you would be a designated race shoe or a designated cushioned long run shoe, but it will do all of them, and I think that's the major plus point of this shoe. It's a great all-rounder shoe. The Triumph 19 isn't a versatile shoe. It excels when it comes to long, slow workhorse training runs where your sole focus is to just get the mileage done in as much enjoyment as you can. And it does a great job at that. I really enjoy running this shoe for those long miles. I've got my headphones in, I'm listening to a podcast, and I just want to know that my legs are going to be comfortable for the duration of those runs. There's a little bit of bounce in the midsole foam as well. It's not amazing, but you can go a bit faster in these shoes. So there's a little bit of versatility in them. But overall, they're really a shoe designed for that comfort over training miles, just to keep your legs ticking over and feeling great. If you're training for a race and you want the Triumph 19s, you're probably going to be looking at getting 2 pairs of shoes, one for training, which would be the Triumph 19, and then a race shoe, because on race day, these might work for if you're doing a marathon and you want just finish it and just do it in comfort and keep your legs fresh, but you're never going to use this to set PBs. I don't think it's just too heavy, too thick to do that. So if you're looking for at the Triumph 19, you're probably going to be looking at least a couple of pairs of shoes if you're going to be doing races as well. So that's it from me. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon. It really does make a difference. And check out the channel for all the videos we've got from the latest road and trail shoes, as well as headphones and running watches out at the moment. Thanks a lot for watching. See you soon.